Hello everyone,
And this is your daily dose of
Hearthstone, and today custom cards again, but this time it's a bit different, hear me out. So I thought, what if we just take the existing cards and forge in the Barrens and we're like, no, let's change them. Either make them funny, make them better, change the effect. How can you make the existing cards custom so they fit better into Hearthstone? Maybe give them an honest title, an honest description of what the card actually does. And I can tell you after looking at all the cards, half of you can't read. For those of you who could read, congratulations, you're in this week's episode of Blonde Person from Germany speaking English while looking at custom cards. Episode 12 or so. Starting with your favorite girl and priest, we're not talking Tyrant, but Xyrella. She still is a 4-mana 4/4 as in the real game, but the better cry is your opponent's board is a joke. It turns out this card, if you play priest, which I think nobody does, it's like the least played card in standard. And with card I mean class, it also doesn't really see play in wild outside of big priest and Raza. In classic it doesn't see play, but okay. If you were to play priest with this card, which is fairly rare, then this card is usually a really good thing. It deals like 5 to 10 damage on average to the entire enemy's board if you happen to play her. Now the problem is, nobody plays priest. And if they do, this card is not included. But if you're about to play Reno priest for fun, and you restore a bunch of health using Reno, then this card also clears the board. 4 and 6, that's 10 mana. Goes with Reno and clears a board that's actually pretty slow. But it's one possibility on how this card could work. And in that specific instance, your opponent board is indeed a joke. In reality though, this card doesn't see play. And next we got I Have Had It with these Kingsbane support cards. Who at Blizzard keeps printing them? That's the tribe. It turns out that Kingsbane being a pretty good weapon, it also turned out that they did nerf leeching poison so we don't have infinite lifesteal. However, we now got 2 or 3 poisons that either give your hero immune, which is kind of like lifesteal because they don't even take damage in the first place, or you have Silverleaf poison where you draw more and more cards. And it's a good question who at Blizzard likes Kingsbane that much that we get those cards printed every single expansion. But don't worry about it, nobody plays Rogue and Wild anyways. It's all OTK Mage and Watchtower Paladin, because that's way more fun. Then we got your boy Mankrik with a simple battle cry, draw her. It turns out, at least for me, I might get lucky though, half the time when I play Mankrik, I draw the card immediately. Like I draw what is shuffled into my deck almost the very instant, the very turn after I played Mankrik. And I feel like that's cheating. With so many bugs in the game that we have seen this week, I wouldn't be surprised if that is actually a thing in the game, that you have a higher chance of drawing Mankrik or whatever you shuffled into your deck, because the card is new and you all get the card for free. So maybe they manipulated RNG. Or not, and I just think about the moments where I did indeed top deck the card I shuffled into my deck. Then we get an artwork, a beautiful piece made in paint, Cannoneer Smithy as a 4-mana 4/4. And instead of having the Battle Cry where it transforms your secrets into minions, 3/3s that then when they die become the secret again, this one instead takes your secret, puts it into the cannon that is in the artwork, and then shoots it at the opponent. The comment they left in Discord to submit this card was that it really doesn't make sense that the card has a cannon in the artwork, but has nothing to do with shooting. Think about like Stormpike Commander for example. Guy has a big rifle, deals 2 damage because he shoots something. Elven Archer, Penflinger. There's something they throw or they shoot. But cards like Cannoneer Smithy or something like Wicker Flame Bumble Bristle, they have cannons in the artwork and they have nothing to do with cannons. And this way, it actually would make sense. And for the fix of the effect, as well as the beautiful artwork, better than anything I could have ever drawn, you get 3 out of 6 ripped out pieces of paper that I have lying around because there are notes written on it. Then we get an honest version of Firemancer Flurgle. It does have Taunt for I don't know what reason, but it's a better cry if you're holding Toxfin, that funny Battlegrounds card that is actually a real card in the game, at least in Wild, you do happen to clear the entire enemy spot. I think that's funny, because it's like playing Pyromancer into Adapt for poison, which you did back in Angora. But now you can do it with Murlocs and Shaman, which is funnier. Did you know that Murlocs battle cries, they make like this sound? I will leave this in the video. Next, we fixed the watch post that doesn't see any plane. That is the watch post cross that one. It can't attack, but depending on what your opponent draws, you see what they draw. So the card is revealed when they draw it. I feel like it should just be revealed, period. So it doesn't really matter with the line of text where it says minion, spell, and so on. You just see what they have. And having an effect like that in the game would be pretty interesting. Because you can sometimes guess what your opponent might top deck, what they might draw into. But when they hold onto the card forever, then you have no idea. And with this post in the original version, just giving your minions +1/+1 or whatever when the opponent casts a spell, which is pretty useless, this would actually be decent. And in the worst case, you have a 4-mana 4/6 if you play Silence Priest, which everybody plays. Then we get a more interesting version of Nero. Instead of summoning a portal that summons 3/2s, you instead change the damage you take from fatigue with your opponent. So if your deck is empty, which makes sense if you play something like Altar of Fire and other stuff that destroys stuff in your own deck, then you could even keep on using your hero power, tap over and over, and every single time you take fatigue damage, your opponent takes it instead. I think an effect like that, where you interact with fatigue damage, cards that are kind of in your deck when it's empty, that are there for both players but have never gained any effect, would be interesting. And with that version of Nero, the card might be better, because at the moment it's this version of Nero. It's Chef Nomi that you have at home. It's really just Chef Nomi, but worse. To be fair, if you open the portal, then you do have 3/2s every single turn, but in reality this card is really bad. It's really not good. Also, fun fact, Chef Nomi isn't good either, but he's funny, and he likes to make food for people. So appreciate your local pandas and give them some bamboo. Then the first submission, which I thought was pretty funny, is Scaps, but fixed. As a 4-mana 3/3 still, it has combo. The next 2 cards you play this turn cost 2 less. In reality though, this card doesn't really see play at all. Like the rogue decks I have seen, they just focus on weapons and hit face. This card doesn't even see play. I just thought it's funny because even I thought this card is going to be broken. I put this into my top 10 card list and it doesn't even see play. Pretty similar to the next card, and that is Tiny Finn's Caravan. This won't survive until start of your turn. And that is true. It turns out you don't want to play cards that are 2 mana and 1/3 in stats that only have an effect at the beginning of your turn. All those caravans should have an effect at the end of your turn. Kind of like Mana Totem. Because, you know, you get an effect immediately and you get the totem. Those cards are terrible. The caravans are complete garbage. And the worst thing is, at least for me, I want to get all the achievements in the game. And there's one achievement to have 100 caravans survive at the start of your turn. That is going to be quite hard. 100 times. And lastly, the Efficient Spring Water. It's 0 mana, draw 2 cards. Unless you play an OTK deck and sadly draw into the 3 minions you have in there, which is Mozaki and Double Sorcerer's Apprentice, then yeah, this is actually 0 mana, draw 2. I feel like this has to be one of the best cards ever made. Obviously, you can only play it on like turn 4 or so, usually earlier because you get cards like Incanter's Flow and reduce the cost of all cards in the deck, but this is really 0 mana, draw 2. This is really good. And with the last card being Pot of Greed, I would say, next week's episode of Custom Cards, for which you can submit custom cards as well, is going to be about Yoink. Why Yoink? Let me explain. So what about you take cards you've seen in other card games, not Hearthstone, and if they have an interesting concept, adapt them to Hearthstone. For example, Pot of Greed, which we just had, but for Hearthstone. So yeah, you take a different card game, maybe you play Vanguard, maybe you play Magic. Whatever it is, take the most interesting card, adapt that to Hearthstone, have an interesting effect, maybe something that cuts your hero in half, I don't know. Thanks a lot for watching. Here's the expansion showdown. Here's the latest episode of Hearthstone Chronicles. And until then, take care.